Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to talk about automotive AC systems. I've done videos in the past on AC repairs, common AC issues on Subarus specifically. I did a video on my 2004 GMC Sierra 3500 Duramax equipped pickup truck's air conditioning system. That was a year and a half ago. So I've done several videos in the past on this topic. I'm going to try to do a little series of videos getting more in depth, teaching you more the theory and operation with air conditioning systems. That's really the key to understanding and repairing anything automotive. Knowing how it works and the theory behind why it works can help you deduce an issue or to figure out why something specifically isn't working. If you know how it should work, you can normally work backwards from a problem to figure out what the problem is. So before we get into too much about AC systems, I want to stress first a precaution. Air conditioning systems can be extremely dangerous to your health to work on. These systems are under pressure, very high pressure. You can have explosion, very unlikely. You have to be very careful working around automotive, well, not automotive, but any refrigerant actually. You can have frostbite, burns on your skin. If refrigerant touches you, it can blind you if it sprays you in your eyes. Always, always, always have to wear a pair of safety glasses. Bare minimum, a full face shield would be recommended. A good set of nitrile latex, either or work gloves would be good to protect your hands. Especially ones with a larger cuff that come up and protect your arms, long sleeve shirt, long pants, anything to cover your skin so you're not coming in direct contact or don't have the potential to come in direct contact with refrigerant would be strongly advised. So just as a pre-warning, guys, I want to stress it's a dangerous thing to work on air conditioning systems, especially if you're a novice and don't have the proper training, don't have the proper tools, or all the knowledge on the system. So be extremely careful if you decide to repair your system yourself. That's all I can stress. Be careful, have the proper safety equipment, take the proper precautions so you don't hurt yourself or others. So in this video, we're going to talk about AC tune-ups or AC maintenance. This can fall under different meanings, terminology. Specifically for me, I like to, with my customers, do an annual AC quote-unquote tune-up or checkup. What that entails for me, it's normally about an $85 service. I bring them in, we hook up an AC recovery machine, we do a full recovery of the system, see how much refrigerant we recover, see if it is low. We will do a vacuum of the system, leak test of the system. We will replace the Schrader valves, check for any other leaks. If no leaks are detected, go ahead and recharge the system to proper full capacity and let them be on their way. During that time, we'll also check for proper operation of both the cooling fans, the compressor clutch, any noise observed in the AC compressor, check for any blockage in the AC condenser or radiator, and check for any blockage of the cabin air filter. Just something you should do once a year to make sure that your system is in top shape. You don't want to get into the middle of the summer and have some kind of failure that could have easily been prevented by some preventative checks earlier in the season. Because as we all know, when it starts getting hot, especially here in the South, it is both hot and very humid, and it's extremely miserable to be driving around without air conditioning in your car. So, that said, we're going to get into a little bit talking about theory and operation in this video, a little bit about equipment to use in repair and diagnosis of AC systems, talking about AC recovery machines, talking about a regular set of R134 gauges, manual standalone vacuum pump, refrigerant canisters, temp guns, Schrader valve tools, and the lot. So a little bit on automotive AC systems. Currently, the majority of vehicles that you yourself own and will be working on will be equipped with R134a refrigerant. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard of R134a. Some of you that have been around longer or driving longer have probably heard of R12. R12 was the previous automotive refrigerant. It was gone by the wayside around the early 1990s due to EPA's regulations. 134a was supposed to be the new, greener alternative to the R12 system, and so it was adopted. Now we are at the very end of life for R134a systems. I can't remember specifically if it's the 2020 or 2021 model year, but I believe right in this area is the mandate for R134a to disappear from new vehicle systems. It is now to be replaced with a new refrigerant called YF1234. Each of these different types of refrigerant require a different set of tools. R134a tools cannot be used on R12 systems, nor can they either be used on a YF1234 system. They all have a proprietary hookup. Their connectors are different. Each automotive AC system has a low side and a high side. Low side and high side on R134 systems are color coded. Your low side is blue, your high side is red. So just like your water faucet in your house that's color coded blue and red for cold and hot, the low and high side is color coded blue and red as well. Blue for low pressure, red for high pressure, hot and cold. Along with the refrigerant type that you need for your specific system, you have to think about what type of refrigerant oil your system takes. Most R134 systems take PAG oil. Old R12 systems use mineral oil or ester oil. You don't want to mix them. If you converted your R12 system, you'd have to flush everything out and replace it with PAG to be compatible with the 134. But there are different viscosities of PAG oil. It's similar to engine oil. You need to know what viscosity oil your system takes. Normally that information is found on the AC information sticker under the hood of the vehicle. It will either be on the underside of the hood itself, on your radiator support, somewhere in the engine compartment you should have an AC sticker. That AC sticker will provide you with information on your AC system. The two main things it will usually provide you with is your refrigerant charge capacity and the type of compressor or refrigerant oil your system requires. So why is it important to know about the oil? Well, anytime you replace a component in the AC system, i.e. replace a compressor, condenser, etc., you need to put the right amount of refrigerant oil back into that component. Most factory service manuals will have a full system oil capacity listed, and some of them will break it down further into how much of that capacity goes in each component. Of course, this is not going to be accurate as the refrigerant oil cycles through the system with your refrigerant. So the exact amount of oil in any single component will not be known. It's just an estimation of how much oil to put in that component when replacing it. You always want to have adequate oil. You don't want to overfill the system with too much oil. You don't want to have it underfilled because then your compressor can prematurely fail. The AC compressor needs the refrigerant oil to work smoothly, just like your engine needs engine oil to operate smoothly without having mechanical failure. So, like I said, when you do a recovery, you want to take note of how much oil is pulled out of the system and replace it with fresh oil of the same amount. So after we've recovered the system, we can do necessary repairs if there are any, or we can go ahead and recharge the system. Before we do that, we need to draw the system under a vacuum. There are two main reasons why we need to vacuum the system out before we recharge it. Reason number one is to pull any air out of the system. Once it's been opened up, air and moisture, humidity can get inside of the system. That moisture can hurt, corrode components inside of the system. It also will lessen the efficiency of the system. We can't have air in the system as well because it is a sealed system, and you can't have air occupying the same space that the refrigerant needs to occupy. So we put the system under vacuum. We have a negative space easily. We can shoot the refrigerant into that space, and it's much easier to charge it to the proper capacity than trying to force it in with air already in the system. And the second reason is to get the moisture out of the system. We don't want moisture in the system corroding the insides of the components of the system, mainly the compressor, and we don't want it to diminish the cooling capacity of the system as well. So by drawing the system under vacuum, it greatly reduces the boiling point of the water and helps to remove it from the system. So once the system has been vacuumed and we are holding a steady vacuum, we'll shut off the vacuum pump and close the gauges, or let the machine sit and do a pressure test. We'll watch and make sure for at least 20-30 minutes as well. Ideally, you'd want to do it for 10 to 12 hours overnight would be the absolute best. To check and make sure the system holds a perfect vacuum. This will just let us know that we don't have any leaks, how big or small in the system, and we're not going to have issues when we go to recharge the system with refrigerant, and we're not going to leak out and have issues. So always want to do a leak down test or leakage test. Hold that vacuum for a while before recharging it. You can vacuum the system and then shoot it straight in, but it's always good to check and make sure the system doesn't have any leaks first. Once we have checked to make sure there are no leaks in the system, we can go ahead and recharge the system and get back to driving with some nice cold air. We're gonna talk about right now the two main sets of tools you can use when working on air conditioning systems. Most professionals are going to have an AC recovery machine like I've got here. This is a Snap-on Cool Care Plus. It's a fully automated machine. It's a few years old now, but it is more than paid for itself. Absolutely love the machine. This is actually the second one of these Snap-on Cool Care Pluses I've owned. No complaints on the machine whatsoever. But like I said, this is going to be professional technicians, shop owners, etc. People that do AC work, you know, 4 or 5 months out of the year, nearly every day, multiple jobs a day. Most DIYers try to avoid the cans in the auto parts stores, especially ones that have stop leak in them. You know what I'm talking about. It's just a can. It's got the nozzle on it. It's got the little gauge on it. Those are really bad. I've seen many people overfill their system with those just due to the fact that the gauges don't always read correctly. The sealant that comes in those can gum up passages in condensers, evaporator cores. They can cause issues with your compressor. Normally, any kind of stop leak in an AC refrigerant oil mixture aerosol can is going to do more harm than good. It's always a better practice to take it to a competent technician, a mechanic, and have them work on the AC system and find the leak and actually repair it correctly, rather than putting a can of snake oil in there and causing more damage and more expense later down the road. So try to avoid those. The second most prevalent thing that any DIYer is going to have is a good set of R134a gauges and a vacuum pump off camera here. This is a standalone vacuum pump. This is what you're going to use to put the system under a vacuum. So now we've talked about a little bit of the why for we do certain steps in this procedure. We're going to go ahead and hook the machine up to this 2013 Subaru Crosstrek and go through the process. So on this one, on this Subaru, we've got an H for our high side and we've got an L for our low side cap. I just now noticed that I heard a little bit of pressure release when I took the low side cap off. These caps are merely protection from dust and debris ingressing into these connections. You don't want a bunch of junk getting in here. The caps are just there to keep out any kind of junk or crud. They're not there to hold in pressure. That's the job of the Schrader valves. Like I said, I heard a little bit of pressure release, so this low side Schrader valve may be suspect to leakage. And again, that's why I like to always replace the Schrader valves when operating or doing a check of a system, or at least a quote-unquote known healthy system. So we'll go ahead and hook up our connectors. They're quick connects. You slide them back, put them over, and release both sides. On top here, you've got thumb screws. these caps screw in and out. You always want them turned all the way out when you're connecting. Then to open these valves, you turn them in clockwise, and we will watch our gauges. I'm going to move the camera for you. So as I open up these valves, watch as the gauges, you see the gauge needle move. Once the needle on the gauges move, you know your valve is open. You don't need to open these all the way. If you crank down on these thumb screws all the way till they stop turning, you do have the possibility to bend or damage the Schrader valves. They only have so much movement up and down they can move. So you only want to move them to the point where they open and you see the pressure rise or change on the gauges. So now that we're all hooked up, we're going to go through really quick and easy. We're going to select recover. System's going to check the pressure. Pressure's a little high on the low side because the machine has been sitting in the hot shop and there was a little bit of refrigerant left in the lines. So we're going to go through and do our recovery, let the machine do its job, and we'll come back once the machine has recovered the refrigerant and is ready to vacuum. All right guys, and we're back. Our AC recovery machine has finished doing the recovery process. As you can see, the low and high side gauges are both under vacuum. Our machine has just beeped to let us know it's completely done. It was draining out oil. Anytime you do a recovery, put the system under vacuum, some of the refrigerant oil is going to be pulled out of the system. The machine I have has a little collection bottle, and it will show how much oil is pulled out. You always want to put back in the same amount of oil. You don't want to keep recovering the machine and not adding oil back. You need a specific amount of oil in the system to help lubricate the internal parts of the AC compressor. So as you can see from our display, hopefully it's probably going to be hard to read on camera. Our recovery is complete. Recovered 1.17 pounds of refrigerant. Empty the oil bottle drain now. So what we're going to do now, like I said, we're under vacuum. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect our hoses and our connections. We're going to pull out the old Schrader valves. We're going to put in new Schrader valves. We're going to do this very quickly because when I pull the Schrader valve out, the vacuum will dissipate from the system. Air and moisture will rush in. We want to get those Schrader valves in and out and our hoses hooked back up and start our vacuum as soon as possible to get that moisture and air back out of the system as soon as possible. All right, so again, we're going to turn our valves out to close them. Pull the connector off, both low and high side. Now we're going to take our special Schrader valve tool. Looks like this. Have a small and a large end. Usually the small end is for your low side port and large end is for your high side port. Simply insert and unscrew. I'm hearing that the Schrader valve is very touchy on the low side. It's already sucking vacuum. You can maybe hear that vacuum escaping as I pull that Schrader valve out against vacuum. There's our low side Schrader valve. And go ahead and grab a brand new one out of my AC repair kit over here. Go ahead and put a little bit of refrigerant oil on the O-ring so it goes in smoothly. And we'll just turn that back in. I'm sure there's a torque specification for these, but always just do them thumb tight. You don't want to go too hard. This is aluminum. Most of the Schrader valves are steel, so you don't want to strip that out. You strip that out, you're going to be replacing a whole hose. So now we flip to the big side of this tool and unscrew our high side Schrader valve. This one should come out easier because the system is no longer under vacuum and the vacuum is not holding the Schrader valve in place. Sometimes you're fighting gravity. They want to keep falling back down inside. their little port. And we got them out. So there's our high side. Match that up. Chunk it in the trash. Lube up the O-ring. Drop it in place. And screw it down until tight. Like I said, you don't need to go crazy. Just snug it up. All right, now that those are in, race against time. We've got air and moisture in our system. We don't want it to stay there. So again, we'll go through, we'll hook up our line, and we'll just turn that in enough for our vacuum to be gone on the line, for our gauge to move. Like I said, you don't want to turn these down too hard. You can damage that new Schrader valve you just put in there. All right, so we're all set there. Now we'll come back over to our AC machine. We'll select vacuum. It's set to 10 minutes. You can manually adjust it. We'll put it to 15, hit OK. Do you want to do a leak test? Yes, this machine will automatically leak test for any leaks after the vacuum period. So we're gonna go ahead and let this run for 15 minutes and we will be back. All right, viewers, 15 minutes of vacuum time, 10 minutes of leak time. Vacuum complete, leak test passed, any key to exit. We are now ready to recharge the Crosstrex AC system. As I said before, most every single vehicle on the road will have an AC sticker somewhere under the hood, on the radiator support, somewhere telling you the refrigerant charge capacity of the system and the type of refrigerant oil. And sometimes they give you a little bit more information than that, but that's normally the bare minimum. So I'm gonna swivel you around, move the camera around so you can see the AC sticker on the Crosstrek. We're gonna go ahead and set the amount of refrigerant we want to be put into the system, as well as the amount of refrigerant oil we want injected at the same time, and we'll go through our recharge procedure. All right, guys, so here's our AC sticker. Sorry for the shakiness, I'm going handheld. As you can see, our refrigerant capacity, 16 to 18 ounces. Compressor oil is DH-PR, which will be some viscosity of PAG oil, I assume like PAG 60 or PAG 100. I have a universal PAG oil in my AC recovery machine that will go into any system without issue. So if you're confused or not sure what viscosity PAG oil to use, there is a universal PAG you can use. All right, so time to go ahead and scroll down to charge, enter. So charge amount, we're gonna go and change this to 1 pound and 2 ounces because our charge is 16 to 18 ounces. 16 ounces is a pound. So 1 pound and 2 ounces will be 18. So now we're set to 1 pound, 2 ounces. We'll hit OK. We can charge either the high side, low side, or both. I like to charge both. And start. Now the machine will take over and do its job. As you can see by the gauges, we are pushing refrigerant into the system. If you could not hear the whoosh of the refrigerant being pushed through the lines. We got 14, 15 ounces in, 1 pound, or a pound, 1 ounce. Sorry if you can't read the display. It's a little hard to set exposure right now so you can see everything around going on and the display. So we've been charged to 1 pound, 2 ounces. You gotta press start to equalize our hose. Now we'll disconnect our high side hose, leave the low side hose connected, start the AC to max recirculate, and come back and hit OK. Always, always be careful when disconnecting your fittings, especially after charging. Schrader valves can stick open and you can have refrigerant blow into your face when taking these connectors loose. You want to be very mindful and careful doing that, because this stuff can blind you. It can give you frostbite. It's really nasty stuff, so always want to wear a pair of safety glasses, preferably a face shield, and some kind of nitrile latex gloves are highly recommended. So carefully release. You saw there was some pressure there, but make sure we don't have any leakage. We're good there. Go ahead and put our high side cap on. We don't want any debris to get in there. We'll tuck this away. Now we'll go ahead and start the engine up, set the AC to maximum, and continue the process. Max cold, recirculate. We are good. And okay. Now what the machine's doing now is essentially it's sucking all of the refrigerant left at the end of this high side hose, through the machine, and out of the refrigerant that's still in the low side hose to completely empty that out. And you'll watch the gauge come down as it empties itself out. That way you're sure you get all of the refrigerant charge in. Says we're okay to disconnect. Again, we'll be very careful disconnecting the low side hose. It's not under as much pressure as the high side, but still there's a potential for that Schrader valve to stick open. And we'll put our cap back on, keep all the junk out, and we're good to go. Our AC recovery machine will cycle through its process to finish clearing its lines out, but we are done with the vehicle itself. We'll let it run a couple minutes, take our temperature gun. Preferably you'd want an AC vent gauge. Temperature gauge. I don't have mine with me. It's currently in my pickup truck, so we're going to use a laser temp gun at the vents to check vent temp. Vent temp is, it varies system to system, capacity, ambient air temperature, all of that plays a factor in what your vent temperature will be on a fully charged, fully functional, nominal system. I believe that ambient temperature right now is about 78, 80 degrees, so we should see 40, 35 degrees Fahrenheit at the vent, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we're gonna go inside the car. Apologies in advance because I'm gonna be handheld with the camera, and we're gonna take the temp gun and see what our vent temps are, see how cold this system will get. Sorry in advance for the air. Hopefully I can mute the sound of the air rushing by, but we're gonna go ahead and take our temps. I should hope, but it looks like my batteries have died in my temp gun. There we go. All right. So we are getting very frosty temperatures. We're seeing 24, 23, 22, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I really doubt that's accurate. This laser temp gun's pretty old, so I doubt that's accurate. We're probably getting vent temps of about 30, 35 degrees. It is very, very cold. Subarus always have very cold air conditioning systems, especially when they're working properly. But I doubt we're getting 6 degrees Fahrenheit. That seems extremely inaccurate. So I would guess somewhere in the realm of 35 degrees. But working very well, very frosty, very cold, very nice feeling after sitting outside for the last hour filming this video. And that about does it. But that was our basic overview of a standard AC tune-up, AC system check for an automotive system, R134, going through the recovery process, vacuuming, leak testing, and recharging. I have done video about 2 years ago showing a recharge using a set of AC gauges, a manual vacuum pump, and a canister. We'll link that whichever corner it pops up in. I may go ahead and go through the procedure on a live vehicle to have an updated video for you guys as well, because as I said, 99.9% of you will be using a set of gauges and a vacuum pump. You're not going to have a recovery machine nor go out and spend the money to buy one. So again, plan to do more videos on this to help you guys understand AC systems and understand how you can go about hopefully repairing easy issues. But as I said before, automotive AC systems are not a very DIY friendly repair. There's only so much you can do on minimal to no training and little to no experience or schooling, as well as the expensive machinery that's normally needed to perform these repairs. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.